from TJ in Moscow. It seems there is growing Zelensky fatigue in the West. The visit to the Capitol, for example, and today in the New York Times, finally a story about Biden's lack of clout in Ukraine and Israel. What will it take for the West to admit that negotiation of a peace deal is the only true recourse?
Well, it's like a passenger on the Titanic who was told, get in the lifeboat, get in the lifeboat. You hit an iceberg, get in there. Like, no, man, the band's playing on the deck. I'm going to hang out here with the music. And basically, what will it take for them to get in the lifeboat? But if you're asking that question when the ship has gone down and you are basically, treading water in the ice cold Atlantic, it's too late. It's too late for the Ukraine, Russia. Russia is on a path of strategic victory. Russia is not going to throw away all that they have sacrificed for to appease the West's desire for some face-saving negotiation. Ukraine knows what the terms are. Ukraine can accept the terms or continue to lose territory at this point in time. But there won't be a negotiated settlement, because a negotiation implies that both parties have somewhat equal standing at the negotiating table. This will be an unconditional surrender. The terms will be very benevolent, because I don't think Russia's out for absolute revenge, but they will be harsh terms: demilitarization, no NATO membership, and denazification. There will be a rewriting of the Ukrainian constitution. The Zelensky regime is out. But it's not like the West has too much vote here. You don't get a vote when you said, when you tell Russians, we're going to continue to fund. We're going to continue to fund. Russia negotiated a peace deal back in March, April of last year. They were ready for a peace deal. Would have given Ukraine everything except Crimea and no guarantees on Donbass. Other than that, it's all there. Just no NATO membership. Too late, man. They walked away from that one. Russia ain't going back to that game. It's game, set, match. Israel. Look, the longer Israel waits, the worse the outcome will be for Israel. Israel needs the best thing Israel could do today is stop their offensive, and bring in an immediate humanitarian pause, get humanitarian goods in there, and then work with the international community for damage control to negotiate a termination of the conflict that at least gives Israel something. Because the longer they go on, look, the Benjamin Netanyahu regime is going to collapse of its own volition. He's history. If this conflict's still going, when it collapses, that means there's an additional element of instability and chaos in the Israeli calculation. He should step aside now, turn it over to a government that can begin a controlled process of de-escalation, bringing down the violence, so that Israel, when they sit down at the table, can make some demands. But the longer they wait, the fewer demands. Hamas gets more traction, more credibility. Hamas will not be defeated. That's my prediction.
All right. Scott, am I wonderful or am I wonderful? We got the challenge coin going.
All right. So, you are wonderful.
Thank you. Thank you. I wish I didn't have to drag that compliment out of you, though, but all right, whatever. So this is the Scott Ritter challenge coin. By now, you all know what the story is. He went to Russia, gave it out. It was a big hit. So now we're selling them to raise funds for waging peace. And we also are giving them away. So if you go into the live chat on only YouTube, Facebook, and Twitch, sorry, but we just aren't set up to do it on the other channels. Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch, only during the live chat, not the comments afterwards. Towards the end of the show, we'll do a drawing, and somebody will win a free coin anywhere in the world. We will send it to you. Postage on us.
Except Russia. We can't mail it to Russia. They won't let us.
Yeah, I think we could actually mail it, but we can't sell it. Oh, no, hold on now. We're not selling it. We're giving it away. We can't. They don't.
No, I every time I try, I have family in Russia, and every time I try to mail them a package, the post service says we can't do it.
Oh, okay. All right. Jordan from the United Kingdom. What is your opinion on the statement made by Zelensky on NBC News calling Putin a fucking terrorist?
Fucking irrelevant. No one cares about Zelensky anymore. He's history. He's gone. He's finished. He's just an irrelevant. Nobody's taking his meetings anymore. So he's sitting there stewing in his own juices in Kiev, trying to be relevant. So, he's making these statements. But I can guarantee you that Vladimir Putin didn't lose any sleep over Zelensky calling him a terrorist. It's Zelensky that's losing sleep because, Jeff's gone back to the old school hat. That's the original Jeff Norman hat. But
got to
anyway,
shake things up. Got to shake things up.
I saw, yeah.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, Scott, people are ignoring Zelensky except for NBC News. They booked him on Meet the Press. So let's just run that clip so people know what we're talking about.
I have a lot of power, but even feeling strong and have a lot of energy, it doesn't mean that we want to fight all our life, because the price is high, like I said, because the war takes the best of us, the best heroes, the best men, women, children. That's it. But we are not ready to give our freedom to this terrorist Putin. That's it. That's why we are fighting. That's it.
Tough guy. Looks like he didn't have a great internet connection either there. The sound was out of sync.
Yeah. I mean, it's
all right.
It's easy to be a tough guy when you don't have to do the real fighting. There are 400,000 of his soldiers have died. He hasn't. You know, look, the bottom line is he's irrelevant. Nobody cares what he says. I mean, NBC played it, but, you know, the world didn't shake up. The world didn't reverberate. People aren't rallying around him saying what a great guy. I mean, remember when this first started, you know, I don't need a ride. I need ammunition. Well, he never said that, first of all. At least he said these words. But, you know, back then it became a poster, it became postage stamps, it became everything. I don't need a ride. Give me ammunition. You know, Zelensky's the greatest man in the world since Winston Churchill. I will fight them on the beaches. I will fight them. You know, come on. Zelensky's a fraud. He's a fake. And right now he's an actor of a canceled television series who continues to believe that he is who he was in the you know, the scripts prepared by screenwriters. But those are empty words because he's an empty man. It's over. I mean, they're falling apart as we speak. General Zelensky, the rumor is that he's been asked to resign by the new Minister of Defense. This is the commander-in-chief of the Ukrainian Armed Forces. His deputy was killed in something that happened. Somebody mailed him some hand grenades, and he and his kid were playing with them, and it blew up and it killed. Who knows what's going on? It ain't. Ukraine is not stable right now. It is falling apart as we speak. I'd be surprised if Zelensky lasts the end of the year. I have a feeling if they go after Zelensky that there's going to be some military guys that go after Zelensky.
All right, let's move on. I didn't mean to argue with you when I said they still pay attention to him on NBC.
Ritter is empty. Damian Todd, you're welcome to come in and find out just how empty I am.
All right, here we go.
Oh wait, the comments. I got to turn them off. Oh no, I read the comments.
We're going for the record on how long it takes for Scott to threaten somebody. All right, next question.
He threatened me.
That's all right. That's the same question we just did. Okay, Mark K. from Roanoke, Virginia. With the new autonomous upgrade of the Lancet drones, do you foresee Russia incorporating swarming capabilities into this weapon system for use against Ukraine?
Yeah, I mean that's the design function of it. I think it's the Lancet 53. I can't remember exactly what the number is, but it's a swarm weapon. So it's designed to be fired off, you know, dozens of them communicating with each other, you know, discriminating targets and coming in and hitting the targets. It's a game-changing technology. One of the more interesting aspects of this war is how drones have been. I was looking forward to having this conversation with Murat about the role played by drones today. The West has no clue what it's like to fight this drone war. Ukrainian soldiers, they're just like, you know, we thought the artillery was bad, but we prefer the artillery because right now the Russians are just flying these FPV, you know, drones, suicide drones that are just following them. And once the drone gets you in its sight, you're dead. It just comes in, hits you, you're gone. And they're all over the place. They're taking out the armored vehicles, the tanks, the artillery pieces, infantry, pickup trucks. And this is fire support. This isn't a bunch of kids just getting up in the morning and going, I'm going to go fly a drone with a grenade on it and see what we do. This is a unit that's part of their fire support plan. And so they basically, you know, they initiate the combat, they get the maneuver going, they get movement on the field, they compel the Ukrainians to move, and then this unit releases the drones and goes out there and goes on and starts hunting. It's part of their fire support plan. I used to do fire support. You know, the idea of integrating, you know, this isn't about having, you know, one Reaper drone off with some with Hellfires firing, the occasional Hellfires. This is something far more interactive. We've been using drones for reconnaissance. Sometimes Marines have been, throwing them out there to see what's over the hill and bring them back. This is a swarm of drones going out. It's a whole new level of warfare that we in the West don't understand. The Russians and the Ukrainians are perfecting it. I mean, the Ukrainians are doing this too. They're flying drones against the Russians. It's a whole different level of war.
All right. Would you say it's a game changer, Scott?
Game changers.
It has
changes
changed
to the game such that the game can never be played the same way again.
All right.
Exactly. Exactly.
Hang on, let me stop the clock. Andreas in Germany, I've been wondering what the Russians are doing in Kherson. For a while now, Ukrainian military has gained footholds on the left bank of the Dnieper, and they are now transporting weapons, vehicles, and men there. Is Russia failing in this spot, or are they setting up an elaborate trap?
Well, this is an interesting question. Look, the Ukrainians have established a foothold on the left bank of the Dnieper. A Russian commander of that area has been fired, relieved of his command, and a paratrooper commander has been put in charge because he was accused of sending reports to Moscow that were a little too glowing, ignoring the problem. And Russian intelligence is going, wait a minute, he's saying we have the left bank under control, and we look down and we see, we have Ukrainian troops there. But let's just make it clear. I mean, one, it's a problem that never should have manifested itself. Two, unless the Ukrainians build a bridge or several bridges, it's a self-solving problem. It's embarrassing right now for the Russians to have this. They're going to have to go in and divert combat power to deal with this situation. But the bottom line is, logistically, it's unsustainable. Once they begin meaningful offensive operations, if they ever transition to the offensive, they're going to be burning through ammunition, fuel, everything that has to be resupplied over the river. And the Russians will interdict that. These guys will run out of ammo, and they're all going to die. Right now, they're dug in a defensive posture, making the Russians come to them. And the Russians haven't accrued. They're on a defensive posture in that area. They haven't accrued sufficient combat power to transition over into the offensive to push them back. And to do so will require the diversion of resources that are needed elsewhere. So yeah, this is a problem for Russia, but it's not fatal.
All right. Just want to remind folks that if you would like to enter a drawing to win a free challenge coin, type in #coin in the live chat on Twitch, YouTube, or Facebook. That's #coin. Next question is from William in Sydney, Australia. If you, Commander Ritter, were tasked with breaking the Surovikin line, getting behind Russian forces and driving them out of southern Ukraine, not including Crimea, what resources would you need to achieve this goal? How many aircraft, armored vehicles, troops, etc., and how would you deploy them?
Well, there's a broad question. I mean, it's a serious question, but I'd have to have a definitive readout of the defenses. Looking at what Russia's done, it was primarily the 42nd Motorized Infantry Division, reinforced with some independent brigades. So we'll call it 3 divisions worth of troops there in the defensive line. Normal attacking ratio, you're going to need 3-to-1 odds, generally speaking. So that means I need 9 divisions of troops. 9 divisions of troops. Now, a Russian division isn't the equivalent of our division. We'll call it a brigade and a half of American troops. So 3 of those, that's basically 4.5 brigades. I'm going to need 12, 13, 14 brigades worth of combat power. Now, I'm going to want more because this is a prepared defensive thing. I'm going to need combat engineers. So let's call it 20 brigades worth of forces with a heavy emphasis on artillery fire, etc. So I'm going to want to, basically dominate the area with artillery, suppress their artillery. Now I need aircraft to come in. So I'm going to need, we'll call it, a dozen squadrons of fighters, and I'm going to be operating around the clock because once I initiate operations, I don't stop until I finish. There will be no pause. So airplanes are going to come in, suppress deep, clear the airspace of their air power. I have to have air defense capable of being moved up to control the airspace to keep their helicopters and aircraft coming from back in. I control the airspace, I suppress their fire, and then I begin the difficult task of breaching the obstacles. Once I initiate breaching operations, I continue to go forward until I have breached and I get to the first defensive line. I will penetrate the first defensive line, broaden the breach, and continue with the second wave of attacks. It would take me 5 days to breach the Syro-Viking line if I had all these forces. But I don't.
All right.
The Ukrainians never did, so it was impossible to begin with. Plus, I'm talking about American brigades. I'm talking about troops trained, to the standard of the Marine Corps. And, no, it's unrealistic. So this was never going to work. Never, ever going to work.
All right. Good answer. Complicated question. You did it. Next question comes from S. Anderson in Irvine, California. The Abkhaz leadership has stated Abkhazia will remain independent while relying heavily on Russia for economic support. Do you suppose the Russian leadership will grow weary of continued support to a region not part of the Russian Federation and may wish for some referendum to join the RF?
I think this is a matter of serious debate right now in Russia. It's clear that Abkhazia would appreciate a more concerted effort on the part of Russia to improve the economic well-being of Abkhazian citizens. The Russians have recognized the independence of Abkhazia from Georgia, but they haven't absorbed Abkhazia because that would be that would be a decisive step. First of all, I don't think Russia wants to absorb Abkhazia. It would incur significant problems regionally, diplomatically, economically. There is some reason to believe that the Russians and the Georgians right now, because, Georgia has done Russia a big favor. There was a lot of pressure put on Georgia to open up a second front against Russia to support the Ukrainian operation. The current Georgian government, the Georgia Dream Party, has said, no, we're not going to do that. Georgia has, opened up air travel to Russia, visa-free travel, and there's economic interaction taking place. The sanctions haven't kicked in. This is tremendous. It's a big deal. Georgia's paid a price. The West is criticizing Georgia, etc. The Georgians have long had a policy of trying to bring Abkhazia back. Right now, if you're an Abkhazia citizen and you need medical care, you can go to Georgia for free and get your medical care because they consider you to be a Georgian citizen, and many Abkhazians take advantage of this. Georgia is in discussions with the Russians about how they can resolve the Abkhazian and Ossetian issues. Some sort of federation, confederation, whatever mixture, they are in that talk. And so I don't see Russia suddenly dropping that, alienating Georgia at this critical time to absorb Abkhazia or change this fundamentally. I think Russia is maintaining the status quo ante with Abkhazia and working with Georgia to see if an adequate formula can be done. But, Georgia would have to do a couple things. One, stop trying to be part of NATO. They would have to reject being part of NATO. And two, they probably need to, make a move towards, normalizing their overall military economic relationship with Russia to join formal affiliation. This is a major step for Georgia, but it's truly the only direction they could go if they're going to ever hope to bring Abkhazia back in.
All right. Somebody mentioned that George Galloway also wears fedora hats. The problem with wearing hats, Scott, is, there really aren't that many different styles that even exist. So the fedora hat is the most common, but if somebody wants to wear something else, what is there? You know what I mean?
Cowboy hat?
Yeah, that's about right. Yeah, or a
I get one of these
hat, or
Muslim hats put on, but I'd get in trouble. I don't want to ever be seen as belittling or something, but, and I received that from in Kazan from the Tatars. The Chechens have unique headwear. The Georgians have unique headwear. So I've got a couple of those around. So
but I'm the one who's, if you want to wear it, go ahead. But I'm saying I'm trying to mix things up a bit. Would I look good in one of those hats?
I don't think anybody looks good in those hats, but that's just my opinion.
But you're going to say you don't think I look good in any hat. So,
No. I'm saying that.
All right.
No non-Georgian looks good in a Georgian hat. A bowler hat. I like that idea. Oh, I just gave away that I was reading comments.
Yeah. The Brewmaster in Wisconsin. Are you familiar with the website goforukraine.com? It's filled with testimonials from average Americans who have bought into the Russophobic narrative of the mainstream media. None of these people have been listening to our favorite weapons inspector. How can this be changed?
You can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink. People have to want to change, be open to new ideas and such. I think one of the problems with Russophobia is it's a fear-based way of thinking, and as long as you're afraid, you're going to gravitate in that direction. So I think they're going to have to be confronted with the futility of their endeavor. They'll have to be confronted with the totality of Russia's victory, at which time they'll start asking questions. How did this happen? Why did this happen? And they begin the process of intellectual curiosity, asking a question. They now seek the answer. And because they've been let down, they don't necessarily believe the answer at face value. And they will start to dig deeper and question the answer until they find out what the truth is. And at that point in time, maybe they'll come over to the dark side.
Are you familiar with that website?
No.
Okay. Let me do that a different way. Hold on. Uncle Sweet Potato in Hong Kong. Have you ever been involved in real combat as a Marine officer?
If you mean ground combat, hooking and jabbing, no, I was an intelligence officer. I don't have a combat action ribbon. I don't claim to be a Silver Star recipient. There's no, stolen valor here. I was an intelligence officer. I was involved in, participating in, combat operations, but as an intelligence officer, picking targets, planning missions. I did volunteer twice during the Gulf War to participate in raids behind the Iraqi lines to hunt down Scuds. Both times those raids were canceled, not because of my volition, no, but it was a short war. Not too many people can say, not from the Gulf War, there's not too many people can say that they actually had ground combat operations. I wasn't a post 9/11 Marine. I didn't deploy to Iraq during the Operation Iraqi Freedom. I didn't deploy to Afghanistan. So no, I hope I don't disappoint you, but I'm not going to sit here and manufacture a history for your edification.
No, I don't think that anybody was accusing you of being a poser or anything. I think
Hey, Jeff, I've been around long enough to know these questions. Okay, I know what the hell that guy was doing with this question. No serious person ever asked that question. It was a question designed to, because now he'll run around and say, well, Scott Ritter's a pogue. Scott Ritter's this. Hey, fuck you. If you think I'm a pogue, come and pogue my ass. I'm still a Marine at the end of the day, which means I'm 20 times tougher than any of these little motherfuckers out there. I hated that question. I hated that question.
I can tell, and you detect what you detect, and you can.
I know what I detect. I've been around a long time.
All right. Apparently, I haven't been around long enough. Apparently, I have not been around long enough.
It wasn't. It wasn't a well-intentioned question.
All right. Let's take a phone call. We're going to still keep it to 33 minutes or less. Hello, you're on with our favorite weapons inspector.
Hello, Scott. I wanted to ask if you could talk in detail about Hamas's anti-tank capability, please.
Hamas's anti-tank capability. Hamas, first of all, Hamas is a military organization, and they have dedicated anti-tank command. And that anti-tank command has different anti-tank cells. They use a variety of weapon systems, but the primary weapon is a tandem warhead equipped rocket propelled grenade. Tandem warhead allows them to defeat reactive armor. So if you've seen all the Israeli tanks with the square bricks on them, that's reactive armor. If you come in with a conventional unitary shaped charge, it hits and the reactive armor blows up and it nullifies the molten stream that's supposed to penetrate the weapon. So a tandem warhead will hit, cause the explosion, and then the second warhead hits and penetrates the armor. And Hamas has made very effective use of these weapons. They have some that come on conventional RPGs for longer range, but they've also developed a weapon that attaches to the assault rifle, and it's like a rifle grenade that puts on there, and then you fire it, and it fires off, and it's very effective in short range as well. And they have guys that are trained in this. Look, their knowledge of the Israeli system is very sophisticated. They know, for instance, that if you fire one of these tandem warheads at a Merkava, the Merkava tank, in addition to the reactive armor, has what they call the trophy system, which is a self-defense system with radars and other systems that shoot out to null. So if you fire, trophy system will detect you, and they'll preempt your weapon. They'll hit you with like a shotgun blast and things of that nature. So what they've done is they physically assault the tank. They place a manual charge on the trophy system. They blow that up, and then they hit the Merkava with the tandem charge from the RPG, destroying the tank. So it's a very sophisticated approach.
Okay, thanks for the call. Let's go back to the questions in text. And if you want to submit your question in advance to be considered on the next episode, go to scottritter.us. That's scottritter.us. U as in you, S as in S. Yvonne in Michigan, if the international community, not necessarily the UN, a globalist tool as is Israel, were to make it clear that Israel can never have Gaza, never control the gas reserves, there is no potential gain. Any chance of this?
Not unless it's done through the United Nations. The United Nations is the only international organization whose charter allows them to, make international law, and they make international law based upon the consensus of the overwhelming members of that body. So they're the only ones who can, Chapter 7 resolution is the only one that can be enforced. Of course, you need all 5 permanent members to concur right now, and that's not going to happen. But the United Nations is the only forum that can come up with that sort of solution. You could have Europe opine on it, but Europe doesn't have any cognizable jurisdiction over Israel, over that area. So no, you have to have the UN involved.
Okay. Sorry. Leica in New England. Have you ever watched the Russian TV show Combat Approved? It seems there's a lot of new tech and equipment in Russia. How come with the amount of money in the USA military budget, we don't have such new equipment? Only the Booker I've seen, or the F-35.
Well, one of the big problems is the way our defense procurement works. The Russian defense industry is far more responsive to the needs of the Russian military. They don't get into long, drawn-out contract disputes. They don't deliberately lowball a contract for a weapon system that they're going to take years to develop so that they can double the price and add things onto it and draw it out. I mean, it takes forever for the United States to go from concept to deployed weapon. The F-35 is an example of that. The F-22 is an example of that. We go back, there was the Crusader artillery system that was canceled. Just took forever. It takes forever to get a weapon system out there. And part of it is just pure greed on the part of the military industrial complex. The Russians don't have that issue, because their military industry is a combination of state ownership and private joint stock ownership. They're responsive to the needs of the state, and they will be held accountable by the state for their failure to execute the contract in a timely and efficient manner. So I think that's why you see the Russians are able to do more in 600 days than we can do in 15 years.
Okay. I think we have another call coming in. Let me just get to it. Hi, caller. You're on with our favorite weapons inspector.
Hi, good afternoon. Big fan of the show, and Scott, you're a great inspiration and a great role model for the Marine Corps, and you represent the United States in the most positive way. My question was, if Hamas received the same type of weapons and supplies that Ukraine has been receiving, would they be able to prevail over the Israeli military? Thank you again. Great show.
Okay, thanks for the call. Take care.
Thanks. The terrain alone dictates that the answer is no. Hamas can only prevail over Israel the way they are right now. Logistically, how do you logistically springboard out of a tiny space like Gaza If you had the tanks would be all in one location. Israel would bomb. I mean, it's just impractical for that. Now, if they could take over the Sinai and use that with strategic depth and create some potential for spreading the Israelis out and bringing in the concept of maneuver, maybe. But Israel's a pretty modern military. You're playing the Israeli game. Hamas is doing what Hamas needs to do right now. They've gone underground, 500 kilometers of tunnels. Many of these tunnels are, 100 meters deep or deeper, 80, 70. They're invulnerable to being attacked by the most of the bombs that Israel has. So they've lured Israel into Gaza, and right now Israel's on an anthill. Every night when the Israelis go to sleep, Hamas emerges. Last night they took out 10 Israeli vehicles. Who knows what they'll do if this war goes on for a year? Basic military math: 10 vehicles a night, 365 days. It's a lot of vehicles. Now, I'm not saying Hamas will enjoy success like that every night, but I am saying that this is a death by 1,000 cuts for the Israeli Defense Force.
All right, let's take another phone call, and I also want to welcome Valley Strickland. She's sitting in today for the first time, handling the backstage duties. And also ask you, Valley, to get ready. After this, let's take a comment or two coming in live in text on Facebook or YouTube or Twitch. So get that ready, Valley, and we'll take another phone call right now. Hello, you're on with our favorite weapons inspector. How you doing today?
Hello, I'm doing well, thank you.
Good.
Whole lot happened over the weekend. Lots of big, beautiful demonstrations all over the world calling for a ceasefire.
All right, that's
Excuse
not so
me?
much. That's not so much a question. As
No,
a statement.
I have a
Do you
question.
All right.
I have a question. You have a question. That was just an introductory statement. Cory Bush, Congressperson Cory Bush, has introduced a ceasefire now resolution urging the Biden administration to call for de-escalation and an immediate ceasefire in Israel and occupied Palestine. I'm guessing you would agree that's a good thing. She did co-sponsor another resolution condemning the Hamas attack, calling for an immediate release of all hostages. Since I'm in Cory Bush's district, voted for her, did volunteer work for her, I want to ask you, what should her constituents say to Cory Bush? What else can she do